Aloha everyone and welcome to another Tinkers Academy video. I'm your host Kay Elmer, and in this video, part of my Bioelectro Healing series is on SCENARS. So, of the dozens of different bioelectrical magnetic devices that I have, I do get asked every now and then if I could only have one device, which one would it be? And you know, the answer is I would want a SCENAR. And let me tell you why. However, before we jump into that, let's talk about disclaimers. I do not recommend or endorse any specific tests, physicians, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned in this video, nor make any claims intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Reliance on any information appearing and discussed in this video is solely at everyone's own risk. Statements made have not been evaluated by the EFSA, FDA, or any government derivative thereof. Caution: do not use any bioelectrical magnetic devices if you have an electrical implant in your body or if you are pregnant. Okay, there just isn't enough research done on the pregnancy aspect, and you certainly do not want to be zapping yourself with electricity if you have an electrical implant. All right, so let's talk about what is a CENAR. Well, the CENAR is actually an acronym, and it stands for Self-Controlled Ergo-Neuro-Adaptive Regulator. So, try to say that 5 times fast. And in a nutshell, it's basically an electrotherapeutic medical device, right? That's a combination of 3 different modalities in this healing space, and the device is made to heal people that use electricity, batteries, so forth. And what it is, it's a combination of biofeedback, frequency, and PEMF, which is the pulsed electromagnetic frequency. Okay, so it's pulsed frequency tied to biofeedback. And how that really kind of comes together is the idea of biofeedback. And this is what makes it extremely unique in this field of bioelectro healing. It's the only device that does that, or devices. And what that means is if you've ever had a biofeedback session, or if you're familiar with biofeedback, basically it's you're connected to a machine that's going to measure your brain waves, and based on and there's 2 ways to do it. You can voluntarily, as you are trying to manipulate your waves, consciously, you can see the results on a screen, and that's voluntarily. You're interacting with that thing, and you are in control. But a CENAR is actually using biofeedback from a reflexive standpoint, where it's basically going to send impulses to your brain, and then your brain's going to interact with it. And by the way your brain interacts with the device, it reads those interactions, and then it compensates and determines what is the appropriate frequency to use for whatever situation that you're presenting the device. So it's pretty high tech. And what's amazing, this stuff was developed back in the 70s and 80s. And it's a Russian invention. It was produced by those guys, and the story goes, and I've never been able to find any validation of this story, but the story goes that the technology was developed by the Russians for the cosmonaut program, because you can't send a pharmacy up into space along with your astronauts, or in this case, your cosmonauts, right? You just can't send the whole pharmacy. So they developed a device that could do a lot of different things from a health and wellness and medical standpoint, that the cosmonauts could take with them in a little handheld device such as you're seeing on the screen. So that was kind of like the story. And I haven't been able to validate that, and I really did look. But the idea is there. Okay, it's a handheld device that actually can treat and cure different issues, and it's exceptionally geared towards pain management. But then it's over time it's been expanded to do a lot more. So it really ties again. I want to point out this one really important point is this biofeedback, which is what makes it really, really unique. So you put the device onto your skin. It starts talking to your brain. It figures out what's wrong at that moment, at that little place you're putting it, the probe or the electrode, and then it's going to go and figure out how to treat you. So that's the key here, is it's got diagnostics capability by literally interfacing with your brain. So, and then once it knows what your brain needs to do, and your brain and the device are talking to each other, then it stimulates your natural body processes for cellular repair via neural signaling, okay? And that's what it does. So it stimulates your natural process. And I can get into a lot about wound healing and injury healing and how CENARs work. I'm really going to try to keep this video reasonably lengthy or short. Sorry, because there's so much I could talk about regarding these devices, and I've got a lot of content, and I think it's very valuable and very helpful. So I am going to try to be high level, okay, about this situation, or about this topic, okay. But that's what it does. It talks to your brain, and it stimulates your own brain's ability to control your body, and then it starts the healing process. And that's what's amazing about this thing. And even more importantly, it's a non-drug solution. There are no side effects if you adhere to the cautions, okay? But that's the key here, is that this is a parallel modality, medical treatment modality that is parallel to the pharmaceutical industry, but there's no side effects, and it runs off electricity. I mean, think about that. You buy one and you're in control. You don't have to keep going back or keep being experimented on, but it's a non-drug, and that's what appeals to me first and foremost. You know what? And it also is an FDA-cleared device. Now, some of these products, and there's multiple different manufacturers in Russia that produce these devices, and now some of them have actually been FDA-cleared under the TENS guideline, which is a different type of a bioelectrical device called a TENS. I'll get into that in a second, and under that classification as for bioelectrics for pain management, some CENAR manufacturers have been cleared by the FDA as a Class 2 medical device. And because of that, there are some sellers out there that will require a prescription to purchase one, but the majority of them, you do not need a prescription. You can just go and buy yourself one, okay? But because it's been FDA cleared, some of them have, then some of those require a prescription. So just, something to know. Now, I think it's really important to point out, what CENARs are not, okay? In terms of pointing out what is a CENAR, but what is not a CENAR. And that's what's really important, because this area of, healing therapy and things like that, devices that go along with it, there's so many different types that it's really easy to get confused if you're not like living it like I do. It's my thing, right? And so what I want to really point out is what it's not. And what it's not a TENS device. And this is what a TENS device is right here. And it's just a little cheapy thing you could buy for $40 on Amazon, okay? And the TENS stands for transcutaneous electrical nerve stimulation. And it's just, all it's going to do is put out a frequency. A frequency. It's going to put out a voltage that you turn up and down, and then it's basically going to numb out your muscles, and and that's how you control the pain. It doesn't heal you, it doesn't cure anything, it just numbs you out so you don't feel the pain. And for those of you who understand pain management, sometimes you don't want to be doing that, because pain is your body's way of telling you, let me heal. Okay, so but that's what a TENS unit is. There's also different devices called an EMS, which is electronic muscle stimulation. That's one of these guys, and these guys are basically primarily used for to reverse the effects of atrophy. Like if you break your leg and it's in a cast for 3 months, it shrinks, and so you want to stimulate it, with electrical pulses to kind of build your muscle mass back up, and that's what these are used for in the medical field. Then there's FSM, which is frequency-specific microcurrent. You go to a practitioner, a chiropractor, whatever, who's using one of these devices, they hook you up with, and it's basically going to be pumping in frequencies at low voltage. That's not a CENAR. And then, of course, you've got these pads, you've got these little ring things, and that's pulsed electromagnetic frequency, and it's a different type of modality. But again, my point here is that there's all these different types, but these are not CENARs, okay? So if it doesn't say CENAR, it's not a CENAR. And I think, that's common sense, but it's easy to get confused because they all kind of look alike, right? But keep in mind that the key difference is this biofeedback, okay, circuitry in the device and its ability to deliver, basically a frequency-specific PMF pulse. And so it's not one of these; it's a CENAR, and that's all. Let's just leave it at that. Okay, now what I think this is what's going to be the meat of the issue here for this Prezzo is what are the technical specifications. Specifically, I want to try to answer for anyone who's interested is, what are the technical specs of a CENAR, specifically to how does a CENAR work, what can you treat with a CENAR, and then how do you use a CENAR, okay? So I think what I'd like to do is walk you through, and this is for anyone who's interested in buying one of these devices, and I'll go through the price ranges. But the whole idea, though, is that if you want to learn about one of these, go to the user guide. Just go Google or DuckDuckGo, whatever you use, but go and find the user manual for this thing, whichever device you're going to get, and read the manual. Okay, because that is the absolute best place to learn. I'm going to walk you through three different devices that I have, that and the English manuals that came with them. Now, just be aware that if you buy, all of these things are Russian made, so you most likely will get a Russian manual in the box, and then the seller will then email you the English version of that. And it's been around for so long that you can always just find the English version on the internet. And that's what these are. So I'm going to walk you through, and I have a CENAR device that's called a CENAR. I have this specific device, which is the home model, which is the Model D, Sport D. I have two of these, one I gave my daughter, and then this was actually one of the first ones that I got, and it's a much older version. I've been using CENARs well over 10 years, so this is like one of the very oldest ones I own, and it's definitely got some miles on it. But and then here's the manuals that came with that. I'll walk you through that, and then I sort of started tinkering around with this other model from a different company called SCENARS, and this is the PCM6 and the manuals that came with that. I'll walk you through that, and then most recently, I've sort of in the last year or two, have upgraded to a different class of CENAR called the biomodulator that comes along with this thing called a Biotransducer. So let me walk you through that, because I think where the answers to these questions are going to lie is really going to be in these manuals. This is where the meat of the issue really comes through. So here's the manual. And to answer the very first question, this is the manual on the CENAR, the RITM, or the CENAR Chance CENAR. And to really answer the first question, which is, how do these things work? Okay, now, I'm not going to get too much into the technical specs, because we could spend hours on that. But I think the easiest thing to do is just look at the manual and say, okay, well, let's just kind of go down to where it talks specifically about it, and which is kind of cool, because this manual really gets into the technical specs. I mean, we're talking electrical circuitry and so forth, but what I want to point out is the idea that it's a PEMF device, okay, and it's got amplitude and voltage and a level of microamps, voltage, and amplitude. That's going to basically be the pulse that's going to go into you. So one of the things I do notice about the user manuals, they don't get into how the biofeedback thing works, but it really focuses on how does that frequency-specific PEMF aspect of the device work. And again, what I mean by that is you're getting a pulse of electrons, right, at a very specific frequency and a very specific power level. That's it. That's really what, I'm sorry if I'm using terminology that I haven't defined, but that's what I mean by that, which is, and here's basically the amplitude. And so if I don't know if you ever watched my first video, my intro to my bioelectromagnetic devices, where I talked about hummers versus ringers, CENARs are ringers, okay? And that just simply means that the pulse coming at you is just a pop, and then it goes down, versus a device that is just going to play a tune to you, like, right, and you're just getting that frequency over this, it's going to stay the same over a period of time, versus a pop, and then it just drops down. And that's what you're getting. This is that pulse, that PEMF pulse. And as you can see from the specs, depending on the model that you get, I've got the Home D right now, which this is my oldest one, right? And it has a 90 hertz plus or minus 10% on the frequency range right here, and then of course you've got that's the stimuli frequency, and then you've got your regular frequencies that the device uses. Again, a cycle modulation, how fast it comes, and all that kind of stuff. So and that's kind of it right there. And then if you look at the CM6, it also has its own set in the user manual, where it actually shows you the specifications in terms of minimum and maximum amplitude and so forth. And I don't know how many of you folks are really into this kind of thing, but if you are, the specs are here, and it'll tell you exactly what frequencies it's capable of delivering and how strong of a frequency it can deliver. So that's the concept of how it works. Okay, now what I think for most of us, I'd say 99.99, and I'm clearly one of them, is, I really don't really get too deep into the nerdy number thing. I'm really like, okay, well, what does it treat? I mean, what can I use it for? That's really where I'm coming from the majority of the time. So when you look at the what can you use it for, and it's a separate manual for the Chan SCENAR, one of the things that this guy was like, this is like one of my oldest manuals, but what's really cool though is it really lists out exactly, like right here, for the lay users, recommendations for lay users, starting on page 15. And oh, hey, should have mentioned this. By the way, everything you're seeing in this video, I've put on Google Drive and different folders, and the link's going to be in the video description below. So everything you're seeing, feel free, grab a copy, and you can just read it at your leisure, and be able to just kind of study it on your own. So, feel free to do your own research. Everything you see is going to be in those folders on Google Drive for you, okay? So we're in this Chan SCENAR manual, page 15, and this is what it does. This is what I am most interested in, which is what does this thing treat? SCENAR, this specific model, right? Different models can do different things. That's very important. And so basically, you can get analgesic therapy, which is your pain, right? Trauma treatments, you get burns, fractures, breaks, contusions, things like that. You can get, these things can treat respiratory issues, anti-edema issues, bad bruising. And then you get into neurological diseases where you can see where all these different types of diseases are listed here in terms of, cranial type of issues, motor muscle issues. You can even, it's interesting, we get into this whole vegetative, and you could use it as an emergency device. I'll get later into that. But then also arthritis and tendinitis, and then cardiovascular. And you can it goes on and on. It goes into ENT, tonsillitis, and gastrointestinal, dental, urinary tract, gynecological, and so forth and so forth. And that's really the range. And as you can see, there's quite a range of different ailments, diseases, injuries, just day-to-day pain that SCENARs are applicable for. And you know what? I just got to say this, and if you don't know, is the SCENARs are so embedded into the Russian medical system that there are SCENAR clinics everywhere. And that you can literally go, and instead of you going to your pill popper, pill pusher, white coat person that you unfortunately deal with every now and then, you could, in Russia, you go to these SCENAR clinics and they just treat you with SCENARs if you can't afford your own home one, and that's it. And so it's a whole nother world over there in terms of how they look at the medical field. And they're not opposed to using things that are not tied to drugs, which is very important nowadays. Okay, so that's the what does it do in terms of the list of things that it can do, and then how do you use them and tied to? So this is like the best example of the list of things it could do. But I want to kind of walk you through the third question now, which is how to use these devices for all this stuff. So when we start getting into that, let's take a look at this is the Chan SCENAR. Again, this is when I upgraded my old one for my new one. I used, if you go back to this one here, I have the older model and I have the newer one that looks just like it. It gets confusing. And so the newer one came with, and they started coming out with color user manuals, a few years ago, and so the color one is a lot nicer. It's easy, and so they really give you some really good diagrams by which you can kind of take a look at the treatment methods, like how do I use this in combination with what it does. So now the manuals say, okay, this is what it does, and then this is what to do with it, with the device, and how do you treat that. And it kind of shows you where to place the electrodes, how to do it, in terms of just how do you actually use it. And then also in terms of just all the different types of accessories that come with it, as well as, again, specific, like what specific points do you need to place the electrode at, how long do you place it there, depending on the ailment that you're actually trying to address. So it's really kind of like, you can see where the user manual's got a lot more comprehensive over time in terms of helping out you understand how to use these devices. There's also this device right here, I talked about the PCMS 6, that's that other one. And you know what, I got to tell you, this guy right here is the most recent. Like, it's one of the newer models that came out a couple of years ago. And you know what? It's by far, of all of the different SCENARs that I have, I think I have like 6 or 7. This one is the easiest one to use. It's also the least expensive one. You can buy the actual unit for about 200 and accessories for an extra 100. So for like under 400 bucks roughly, you could have a full kit. And you definitely want the accessories with this guy. It's designed for those accessories, which is what's really cool. And so this guy is really super easy to use. It's a really good entry model. It's got really good documentation, and you can kind of see right here where I like this guy a lot because it's like it's got this little screen, and you could look at the screen right here. This is a picture of the screen, and it says, hey, do this, like very, very visual. Do this for this long, and then it automatically sets the duration. It automatically sets the power level. Well, you actually have to set the power level, but it sets the duration for you, and you just pick. I have an allergy. I want to treat the allergy in it, and it shows you in a picture where to put the probes. Right? Let me just keep going down here. See if they got any more examples of what the screen looks like. I'll find it. I thought I saw it. Here's the different pads that I have. And I thought I saw, oh yeah, here you go. And so this is where you would put the probes. You put it on the back of your neck. You put it along this mid-band. And then you set the thing for, I got allergies, or if you've got lower abdominals, this is the area you want to treat. And you just pick it. You just pick what your problem is. And then it shows you these pictures on the screen where on your body to place it, and you just do it till it beeps at you. It's so simple. So yeah, this is a really great model, and I recommend all of this stuff. So it's really going to be depending on your budget and what you really want to try to cure, treat, right? And how you're going to find out what you're going to cure or treat, or which one works for what. Look at the manuals. Okay. So now the other one that I want to talk about in terms of well, this is the biomodulator specifications. Again, just kind of revisiting the idea of, like if you want to know what the specs are, here you go. It gives you the power output, frequency, voltage, current, and all that. But instead, let's talk more about like what do you use it for. And so the thing about Tenant now is their SCENARs. They don't call them SCENARs. They call them biomodulators. The information for biomodulators is not all in one manual, okay, which makes it a little challenging to learn. And so it's about, I would say, about half of the stuff you want to know is in a maybe I'd say that's kind of excessive. Let's be honest. Let's say about 20% of what you want to know is going to be written in a manual, and the 80% is in videos and then you get 3 sets of educational opportunities to learn this stuff. And they have this online university, which is awesome. And so that would probably get you about halfway there in terms of becoming really, really proficient. Is watching the videos, read all the guides. This is the guide you're seeing right here. And then the rest of it, though, is going to be paid for. Like if you want to get proficient, like really, really like a practitioner level proficient at everything that a biomodulator can do, you would need to take the advanced courses, and they do charge for that. And so that's their business model, which is a little different than, let's say, you go and buy a PCM6. It comes with the manual, and then some of the training videos are free. Some of them you have to pay for if you want to become really, really proficient. Okay, but one of the things, though, this is the biomodulator SCENAR. Okay, and it will also, the quick start guide will tell you exactly, or not exactly, but it'll tell you and give you some guidance as to how to use the machine, which is very handy. This also got its own set of accessories, but this is probably. Just the fact that they did it like this, it made it, for me, the easiest thing to use, to learn how to use, okay? As opposed to, reading the PCM6 manual, which is 216 pages. The quick start guides for the biomodular is only 61 pages, so I could, bang through that in a night. But then, same thing, right? It shows you where the points are, whether you want to put it on, depending on what your issues are. Like if I want to treat the gallbladder, here's the points for that. If I want to treat, the stomach, this is the point. If I want to treat the small intestine, that's the point, which is strange, but it's how it works. And then that sort of thing. So then, here you want your parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. You want to reset that. Then you want to go ahead, and this is the point right here. This range right in here is what you want to treat, that sort of thing. And then for different conditions. So you can kind of see how It's really helpful. It's got a lot of pictures. I need pictures to learn something, and this is such a very helpful thing. And then one of the coolest thing about the biomodulator, and it's really much more advanced than the PCM6 or the Chan CENAR. And the reason I got a biomodulator is that it's really, in my personal opinion, it is the most advanced CENAR on the market as of now for home use. Okay, and because the guy that invented the biomodulator, Dr. Jerry Tennant, he's also the author of Healing is with Voltage. The guy is a freaking legend in my world, the bioelectromagnetic world. He's a legend, and he saw the potential of a CENAR, and he also had a deep, deep understanding of the concept of how our body works as it relates to voltage. So he had a CENAR that was made by a company called Avisa, and he had it customized into a biomodulator by combining body voltage measurement and charging with a CENAR. So his CENAR, which is called the Tennant Biomodulator, this guy right here, this thing, his CENAR is everything a CENAR could be, right? The biofeedback, frequency, and PEMF, plus it's got an extra feature that other CENARs don't have, which is body voltage measurement and body voltage charging. And so you could literally use this thing to charge up. And, because your body, you're a battery. I don't know if you guys ever saw the movie Matrix, right? Well, that was actually true. I mean, human beings are little batteries. Okay, that's actually scientifically fact. And so we run off of electricity. Everything, all our chemical processes are run off positive, negative charges and electricity going through. I mean, millivolts, right? Really tiny, but that's what we are. And then we actually have a biomagnetic field around us because we're electric, and that biofield is called the human biofield. I don't want to digress. But you can, when you're feeling down, that means you're low voltage. Charge up like a battery, and this is how you do it. So I do this quite often, and the only thing you got to be careful of is don't do it too much, or you won't sleep. You're just going to charge up too much, and that is possible. But yeah, whenever I'm feeling down, a cup of coffee and hook up to the biomodulator, and put tens pads on these. The black goes on black, red goes on, typical battery, right? Positive and negative. Very important because the body has positive and negative portals, right? And so you can see the manual really kind of goes into that. So it's really, really, really helpful. If you want to understand the biomodulator, this is it. And then the other thing that the biomodulator has that no other CENAR has, and I'm not trying to sell these things. I have no affiliation. I have no affiliation whatsoever. Pick whatever product you want. It has nothing to do with my pocketbook. But the thing that makes this, and this is why it's my go-to. So, like, if I had to go to a deserted island, what would I take with me? I have this little, laptop bag with all my biomodulator stuff in it, plus all the accessories. I'd grab that, and I'd grab my dogs, and that would be it, and that would treat us for whatever happens. But the thing about it, like I want to point out though, is it has a biotransducer, and that's what this thing is right here. This is the original one was called the Crystal Wave, and then they upgraded to a biotransducer, and it's actually a newer model right now that's out. That looks that does the same thing. It just looks different. So that's what this guy is, and what this little doohickey thing is, this thing above this girl's head, like that right there. Let me see if I get a better picture of it. I guess not. Okay, so let me just kind of expand on it so you can kind of see what the picture looks like. So I've got this model right here, and then I've got this little, like, looks like a telescope, right? And so this thing right here has its own power supply. It's battery operated. You plug it into this guy, and so then basically the biomodulator sends a frequency pulse through the biotransducer, and what the transducer does is it basically translates or transmutates or whatever. What is a better word for that? It basically just changes it into a scalar wave. Okay, and then so the thing is, and this is a really important point I do want to point out, is that it is hard to try to treat an internal organ with a device that you place on the skin, because you're sending a pulse through your body, right? And your body is made up of muscle, fat, and tissue. And then so The whole idea, though, is if anyone who understands radio waves, is that your body absorbs energy that's been pumped into it. And so every, like, every centimeter that you go into your flesh, you're decreasing the level of energy that's going to reach the next centimeter, and it just keeps going down like a reverse hockey stick, right? And so what Tennant realized was that, to get the optimum treatment of a CENAR, you needed to go deep into the body. And how would you do that? And a regular bioelectrical pulse will not have the same level of strength that the machine puts out 4 or 5 inches into your body. And for those of us who are like me, that we're kind of round, the center of our mass could literally be 4 inches in, right? And so to get 4 inches in and still have the same level of energy with an electrical device, that's not going to happen, because you're going to lose energy as you go inch by inch by inch into your flesh, and then especially if it's bone. So he invented the Biotransducer, which is a scalar device. And so whenever you're treating your internal organs or your brain, anything that's past your bones, right, or an inch into your body, you use the Biotransducer, and believe me, that thing works. I've used it on my own self, and it works way better than a regular CENAR, because again, CENARs can't penetrate that deep. Biotransducers can. And so the Biotransducer can go right through your whole body, and it sends a scalar signal into whatever you're trying to treat, and that's how you can get that pulsed PEMF, frequency-specific PEMF pulse deep into your body with a scalar wave using a Biotransducer. I hope that wasn't too technical, but that's how it works, and so that's kind of the cool part about it. So that's the quintessential, and I hope that was concise. How does it work? How do what can you treat, and then how to use it? And so the how to use it is buried in the manual. All this information's there. Video description. Click the link if you want to learn more. So next thing I know that everyone's asking, besides like, okay, well, how does it work? What does it treat? How do you use it? Is, okay, well, what's the clinical and experience that's been reported, and what are some of the studies? And so, this is where I just want to say that, I could spend days finding all of this stuff and document it, but I just don't have that level of time. But what I did do, though, is I spent a good a half a day just going through just the first a page or two. I'd say the first page and a half, 2 pages off of Google Scholar, which is the website that searches through papers, science papers, and just looking at other websites, the actual manufacturer websites, on what they report in terms of what are some of the studies and the clinical experience of the practitioners that are using these devices out in the field. And again, it's been 30, 40 years, right? And there's a ton. So I just grabbed a little snippet, and this is just the papers that I grabbed right off just 4 hours of researching, and just so that I could just share with you an example. Okay, so this is just an example of what it can do based on not the user manual, which is the guy that wrote it's trying to sell you one, right? But this is what the scientists that are studying this stuff and the clinical users that are using this stuff, and what are they saying? So let's just look at just a few, okay, from just purely, just random. Go through Google Scholar. Let's take a look at a bunch of papers and just get this a little tip of the iceberg sampling of what the science literature says about the use of CENARs. So the very first one is basically using CENARs right here, skin therapy on skin burns. Okay, and so what I'm just going to point out the results. So just jump to the results, and so that this doesn't take too long. But bottom line is that the CENARs were discovered, during the research. The CENAR was used for applying 3 different methods described in the article. And by the way, all of these are translated from Russian to English. Okay, these are Russian studies. State University of Rostov-on-Don. Okay, Tagarog. Okay, no, I'm sorry. Okay, so anyway, so they basically had some people who had burns. They treated them with CENARs. All right, and so here's what the folks said about the CENARs. The results. Let's go jump to that. The results right here, and I'll just point it out. During the use of all the CENAR therapy, improvement in clinical blood value was stated, and an antioxidant potential, reliable increase in superoxide dismutase and catalyst erythrocytes. That's red blood cells. And the decrease of medium mass molecular concentration restored. So this is all good stuff. It basically helped. And trying to find in, like a layman's sentence here that says... I guess there's no real. I'm looking, and I don't see a layman's statement that says, "Hey, this worked. It helped. It improved." But that's what this means. From a science or a medical standpoint, it helped the burn and it healed it faster. Here's another one on burns. This is what just popped up on Google. I believe that whereas I can find a little bit better. I think right here. So let's just say usually you find it at the last two sentences of the abstract, but I don't think the Russians write their abstracts like we do. Okay, so right in here it says researchers of recent years, blah blah blah. Rectifier. Okay, so I did find this earlier. Research findings. Here we go. When combined with analgesia. Okay, so that'd be like burn gel or something. The effect could be noted in five patients in 10 minutes. 10 patients, blah 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 blah. Let's see. Okay, the results evidence that painful sensation was reduced in 94% of the primary group. In the control group, where they were using the analgesics, only 56%, and then 44% asked for additional analgesic injections due to pain. So that's pretty awesome. 94% of the primary group received a benefit from using the CENAR on their burns. Here's another one. This one's another translation. Effectiveness of CENAR in complex, treatment of ulcer. I couldn't, this is one of those ones I couldn't find the whole study. I only could get the abstract, but here we go. This is in combination with the normal treatment, they used the CENAR, okay, with it. And so in addition of CENAR therapy to complex conventional pharmacology, fastened ulcer healing increased the effectiveness of this, wow, there's a word, Heliobacter pylori, I'm sorry, I don't want to be doing this, eradication, and improve the condition of the gastroduodenal mucosa. All right, I'm so sorry, guys, but okay, it improved. Okay, let's just stick with the word improved, and it helped. It made their ulcer treatment better by using a CENAR. Here's another Russian translated one. CENAR therapy for chronic insomnia. And bottom line is, they talk about doctors, and they did 342 doctors, and they had them fill out a questionnaire before and after CENAR treatment that says, hey, did this thing help you sleep better, okay, with insomnia? And so this is the this is some kind of medicine, the Zopicon. So what they did was they gave the doctors medicine to help them with their insomnia, okay, and then they gave them a CENAR to help them with their insomnia, and they wanted to compare the CENAR to the medicine, all right, and that's just what happened. So now they did a survey. It's a self-assessment. 342 doctors did a self-assessment on before and after using the drug, and then they did another one before and after using a CENAR for the same problem, quality of sleep. Okay, right there. And so just like real quick here, here's their characteristics of sleep and how long it took them to fall, how long they slept, blah, blah, blah. But the total evaluation, I think, is what's really kind of impressive here. On the drug, right, the average score was 16.3. This is how, this is basically their crappy life. But, when they took the drug, the average score went up to 22.7 on their scale, whatever the scale was, right? And if you did some math, that's a pretty good percentage increase in improvement by using the drug. But what's really cool is, check this out. When they did the self-assessment, it pretty much came out the same before the CENAR treatment. But after the CENAR treatment, look at this. Using a bioelectrical device, no drugs, they roughly achieved the same result as taking a drug. There was an improvement in their sleep, no drugs. Let me repeat that. It's so important because I'm anti-drug, okay? It's an improvement equivalent to that of taking a pharmaceutical. Okay, let that sink in. All right. So now here's another one. This one gets really complicated. When I read this thing, I had a hard time. There are no English words in here that I even understood. But, it's going to be one of those other ones where it's like, hey, it improved. Okay. And what it improved, I still haven't figured it out. But it's in the okay, well, I did try to read this. again, and what I got out of it was this study basically says that the CENAR improved the antioxidative responses within the blood in very complex words that I had to go look up in a dictionary. So I'll leave you with that one. For you science guys, you can, or medical guys. Now here's another one that's English translation of a Russian universal mechanism, and this is mechanisms of CENAR effect again here in oxidative stress. This study actually says, yeah, it basically right here, the anti-radical effect of CENAR therapy is universal for various pathological processes. So it's antioxidative, anti-radical. So, and you know what that means, right? For you guys taking C60. So here we go. Another one here, which is the a Russian study done in, is a CENAR clinical trial in the United States. Using a Russian medical device, right? That's what it is. And so in this guy, again, they took a bunch of people, they had them rate themselves. It was, I believe, it was on for pain. And then here's your reported pain scores, right? You know, you go to the chiropractor or your doctor, they go on a scale of 1 to 10, how much pain you in, right? And that's what they did with these folks. And these folks came in, their rate of pain was, high, and then they used the CENAR and it got better. It dropped. That's the point there. And then there's another one, CENAR for pain relief and chronic illness. I found this on ResearchGate. It's an actual really good article about just different practitioners reporting in their clinical experiences using CENARs in their practices. And then this is my favorite. I found this on the eBody Fusion website. Benedict Howard, great guy, lives in Maui, another Hawaiian guy. He teaches how to use a CENAR. He's a DNAS distributor. And on his website, there's this study. And this is the most profound study I will share with you about CENARs, and I think it's so valuable. Basically, the CENAR trials was done in the 1980s in Russia. Okay, in 1980s in Russia, the Russians, they tested 18,000 people right here, okay? 18,000 people with diseases all over the place. I mean, look at all the different things. They had digestion problems, circulation, ear problems, musculoskeletal, respiratory, and oral genital problems, okay? And so 18,000 people, and they used CENARs on them to see what would happen. I mean, how could they make, could they cure them, treat them, right, with a CENAR? And the cure rate was 88.5%. Okay, 88.5% of the 18,000 people reported they got better using CENARs. This is the Russians. That's why it's a big deal in Russia. So, I mean, this is in the directory. You guys can read this thing. It's also on Benedict's site, eBody Fusion, okay? But here you go. And they actually go through one by one. They go, here's the results on the circulation, people who had problems with digestion, people who had problems with their ears, their musculoskeletal system, respiratory system, whether it's like sinuses, bronchitis, tonsillitis, on and on and on and on. And you can actually see the individual results here. And you can see the cure rate, the percentage people got cured, and the ones that reported, like this one right here, 93% of the people reported they got improvement from using a CENAR, right? So this is huge. When you look, and this is clinical experience / scientific studies proving that CENARs do all this incredible stuff for the human body when used correctly. So I can't stress enough that this isn't just some woo-woo magic stuff coming from Russia, but this is actual real medical treatment devices that do real stuff that can really help you. So if, again, going back to if I only had one device, this would be my go-to. I use it for everything. I mean, any little aches and pains, any problems, whatever I do, have an issue, man, I grab this thing and I'm good to go by using it. So that's why I'm doing this presentation, so that I can share this information with the rest of you. So now let's talk about, what do you consider before buying a CENAR? And so one of the things I think that's really important for those of you guys, if I've gotten you interested in getting a CENAR because you've never heard about one before, or that if you already have one, you might want to upgrade or whatever. But here's the idea, what to consider for those of you who are new to this concept and new to this type of technology that can help you. I mean, honestly, everyone should have one of these in their home because it's a lot easier, faster, cheaper, and less dangerous than going to a doctor, okay, to treat yourself. And so one of the things that I want to say is try before you buy. If you're brand new to CENARs, then go find someone who's using one in their practice. There's thousands of people using SCENARS in their practices, even in the United States. A lot of chiropractors do, a lot of like health and wellness centers do, and basically I would just sit there and use a search engine, find someone in your local area who's using these things. They're gonna say on their website that they do, or call around, and you will find a chiropractor or some other kind of wellness person, acupuncturists, healers, those kinds of guys. And they're going to be, and the ones that use these things, you can go ahead and get a treatment and see if it helps you, and most likely it will. Unless you're like really messed up. Okay, so but the idea though is try before. So you can try before you buy. Now, if you want to buy, then you have to know that one of the things that there's a huge difference between devices. Okay, not only in the different companies and the different models that are made, but that every single place that makes these things makes two different levels of devices. One for practitioners and one for people at home. So the ones for practitioners are way more complicated. Okay, and they have a lot more features, so that you can, so those guys could like, diagnose and then dial into it, instead of like a broad spectrum kind of like approach, right? Like a home device would be for us laymen's that, are kind of like, I'm speaking personally, like, Neanderthals, right? Trying to use a stick. And so they make them simple. There's less variability, simple features, so that, people can use them from home. And we don't have to take like, a week or 2 or 3 or 4 training to understand how to use it. So that's the main difference. And because of the fact that the practitioners' models are deeply feature rich, and the home ones are vastly simplified, there's a huge price difference, because you can imagine that there's a lot more money to build a device that's for a practitioner than you would for someone who's at home. So the price ranges now for some of these now you see the CENAR like this guy right here. This is the practitioner version of this guy right here, which is my home version, okay? And this guy right here, this is the practitioner version of my home version, which is this guy right there, okay? So it's going to be a lot more expensive. So if you buy one of these practitioners, it could cost you $3,000 on up to $12,000, depending on what model you buy. Practitioner. Now, for the home model, as I said, the home model, you could buy this guy right here, the PCM6, for like, $300 full package, under $400. This guy right here sells for about $350. This guy right here sells for about $3,000. But if you keep an eye on eBay, you can usually buy a retired one, because people upgrade all the time, and that's how I got the 2 I own. I actually own 2 of these, an older model and a newer model, and so I got them like half price off eBay, because the person who was using it upgraded to the next one, so then they sold their old one. For me, I upgraded to the next one, but I gave my old one to my daughter, kind of thing. But so that's basically the concept there, is that you could see where the price ranges on. The more it can do, right, the higher the price. So you could get something as simple as like under 400, or you could go wild and you could go full on package. Like you get the biomodulator package for home is just 10 grand, but you could get it on eBay like I did for 27. 100 for the whole package, right? That include the biomodulator. I'm sorry, the biotransducer. So anyway, that's the key thing to remember, is that's why there's a huge price range, home versus practitioner models. And then there's also this thing, and I'm going to be honest with you, it is a steep learning curve. You could get something like that PCM6 where you just follow along with what the screen says. And then I don't recommend this guy. This guy's the oldest model that I own. Actually, I have an older one that's like 15 years old. That's an old Danas model. That's this guy right here. This is what it looks like. Super old model. When these guys came out, it was like my kid was a toddler. But I do have that model, and so I don't recommend that guy, these older guys. And I don't recommend these, because, look how you have to look at the user interface on this guy. Whoops. The user interface on this guy is just all buttons, and you have to know what the buttons are. And I always forget what the buttons mean, and I have to go look at the manual every time I want to set it. So I don't really use it that often, but I'll tell you what, I tore a rotator cuff a few years ago, and this thing saved me. It saved me. I mean, I use this thing twice a day, 15 minutes on a torn rotator cuff. I could not even lift my arm, right? and basically the pet, or not pet vet, I was going to say pet vet, the medical med, was it WebMD, yeah, that guy, it said, was like, hey, average person with a torn rotator is going to be 3 weeks, right? Man, I use my CENAR 15 minutes a day, twice a day on the rotator cuff. In 1 week I could lift my arm and use it and without pain, and that's just how amazing these things are. But so this thing works. It's just real complicated because of the buttons, as opposed to look at the screen. And then this guy here, it takes training. But, it's worth it. I'm going to tell you, though, but there's a steep learning curve. So I just want to be honest with you guys. If you're going to do this, be prepared to learn how to do it. You can't take the typical guy approach where you just jump in and start playing around with it. That won't work. You need to take the training, read the manual. And that's required with these things. But I'm going to say it's completely worth it. Okay? Take the time if you're interested in this. Now, the other thing, too, again, is the customized features I mentioned, which was, again, like the biomodulator has the healing voltage aspect to it. And then lastly, the accessories. So these are the things you need to think about. And where the accessories come into play is, what do you want to do? What is your issue that you want to, do you want something that's, just something in the home that can handle like a first aid kit kind of thing that can handle anything that comes along? Or you're someone like me that I have very specific issues, which is why I got these things, which was like, I got back issues, I got a blown knee, and also I'm also aging. I love aging. Aging's wonderful, isn't it, for you guys that are out there that you're into the latter half of your years, right? Yeah, it's amazing. You wake up every day and go, okay, now what's going to hurt? I have no idea how I got hurt. I'm just hurt, So I something hurts. Let's go put my CENAR on it, and boom, it goes away. So now accessories is really important. And there are tons of accessories. The user manuals will display what the different accessories are, for each one of their devices, okay? And so I'm just going to walk you through real quickly, okay, so if you wanted to, let's say, treat a knee, treat a hand, arthritis and that sort of thing. They've got sleeves and gloves you could put on. If you want to treat your eyes for macular degeneration, glaucoma, that sort of thing, you can get something for your eyeballs. This one here they call it the facial probe, but I swear, if you get one of these for just right off the bat, because if you're holding your CENAR in one hand and you're looking at the display and you need to reach around and treat your back, let me tell you, it's a lot easier to do that with this probe. So you want to get this probe. They call it the facial probe, which is what you use it for, but it also is an excellent, I call it like an extension cord for the CENAR. So that's really, really the most important one I have. I have one for every one of my devices. Now this guy right here is for treating the scalp. And so it's got these little prongs so you can get through the hair, right, and reach the actual skin on the head. These Y probes and this little dental probe right there, these are like pinpoint probes. I can't go into it because I'm already at 51 minutes. But this guy right here not only can treat your teeth, but you can use it for using a CENAR as an electro-acupuncture device, because you can get it down to the pinpoint electro probe that'll send the pulse frequency through this little tiny pinpoint probe, which means you could place it on an acupuncture point and use it for electroacupuncture. Okay, so that's how you can use a CENAR for that. Can't get into that right now, but that's what that's for. But it's actually, they designed this for dental, but you can use it for this other purpose. Now, the Y probe is for basically treating, your adrenal issues and so forth. And you got your, if you want to charge your whole body, charging is got plates and handhelds. TENS pads, yes, you can use pads with your CENAR. And believe me, I just set this thing on auto, and I just put one on each side, the black and the red, right? And I just let that puppy run, and I'll tell you what, instant backache gone. Here's the pads for shoulders, knees, and backs. This is the PCM 6 version, and then you got this thing right here, this monstrosity thing. Look how many different probes are all tied into this thing, and this goes with the PCM models, the DNAS models. This accessory. It's $15,000, man, and I'd love to play with one, but there's no way I got that kind of money. But you just lay on this thing, so it's like full body charging and treatment of the entire back for some, and it's got all of these electrodes on it. You just lay on this thing, and you do a full body charging. And then, of course, I talked about the Biotransducer. So, and you know what? This little snippet here, this little slide, it doesn't even touch the tip of the iceberg on all the different accessories. So, but here's the point, though, right? Is what are you trying to treat? And then there's an accessory for that. So there you go. This stuff's been around forever, so there's an accessory for almost everything. including things to put up your behind. Okay, so anyway, moving along. I digress. So now, if you want to learn more about SCENARS, the first thing, again, is, you definitely want to go find a practitioner near you. Okay, like I mentioned, and try before you buy if you want to learn more. You definitely, like I said, video description, there's going to be 3 folders, and you're going to see a folder with all the science studies and clinical experience documentation. I'll have a folder of the user manuals, okay? And then there's another folder. Something else is in there. I just went blank. Okay, but all the documentation of everything you're seeing today is in the folder, in the video description. So that's how you would then learn more. Find a practitioner, and if you want to buy your own, my recommendation there is I'm not going to feature all the hundreds of websites that sell these things, but I will say again that these things are not cheap. The cheaper ones, yeah, you can just pick up. I mean, it's no brainer, not more than the cost of a TV. But if you're really serious about it, then do what I do, which is I camp. I go sit on eBay and I camp out on that thing till I find a used one, and they're just as good. And if you get a used like biomodulator, it still allows you, if you register the serial number, to attend the university. So it's and I got that through an estate sale. So yeah, that's how I get most of my devices. That I just get a really huge discount just camping on eBay, and waiting for a really, really good opportunity, really good offer. And then otherwise you're buying retail. And I don't know about the sales, but the whole idea though is that's what I do in terms of buying your own if you wanted to do that once you're convinced you want it, and then of course learning how to use it. Oh, that's right. The third thing I wanted to share with you is the learning how you use it thing. Again, if you want to learn how to use it, then you could go, and read through the manuals. But I did want to tell you that I've got this little training folder right here that I'm going to share with you. And basically, it's over the years I've been collecting all these different videos as I find them on YouTube and wherever about how to use one. And so these are it's like all these different tutorials on how to use the DNAS, how to use the cenar, different people giving courses. And so there's a ton of little videos in here. Let me just kind of show you the thumbnails of all the different videos on how to use different SCENARs to help you get better. So if you wanted to just get a peek into the different types of training materials and actually watch videos of people using them, go to that video, go to this video section here called training, and you can go and watch those videos there. Okay. Last thing I want to say, and thank you for sticking out in this long video, is that it works on critters, okay? And that's the most, I think, for me, it's one of the most important things because, my family includes my dogs. And so it's a little different, okay? Now, and this is something I wanted to point out. Like this little guy right here for the human hair, it doesn't work on animals, okay? I tried. And so what works on animals, okay, is they make special cuffs, which I don't have a picture of, that you can connect to it, and basically you use electrode gel, and you put the cuff on them, or you could use this guy with electrode gel, so that you basically have this electrode gel which makes their fur wet on whatever area you're treating. You put the probe on the gel, and then that way the electrical pulse can pass through to the skin. Otherwise, you have to shave them, and some of you might not want to shave your dog just so you could treat them, but you cannot just put the probe up against fur. It will not work. It just doesn't go through fur. And they really, so far I haven't seen any of these guys actually produce an accessory that works for that. But I did find an accessory with the frequency specific guys, the FSM guys, and they actually created a cuff to go with their devices that does work, as well as I just use electrogel. So when I want to treat my dog, in the old days when I just had a PCM6 or a Chance, I would treat them with one of these using electrogel. But now that I've got one of these guys, which I just got last Christmas, I have a transducer. You don't even need. You just hold that thing over, and it just shoots the frequency right into their through their fur. Okay, so but this is not cheap. Okay, so the cheaper way to do it is buy a regular one, and this one. Otherwise, you can use a transducer, but you can treat your animals with a SCENAR with the appropriate accessory, and they will get all of the benefits. All of the benefits that you would get, they would get it as well, because they're mammals just like us, and we love them and we want to treat them. so you can treat your horses and your livestock. You can treat your pets, and just it's just beneficial to them. It is for us. So, and you know what? Think about all the vet bills you'd save. Okay, so that's it. And I just want to say thank you. There's a lot to cover. I really appreciate your time that you're spending with me, and your interest in SCENARS. And I can't be more excited enough to share this with you, because I'm very passionate about be your own healer. Help yourself. Help your loved ones. Stay away from people who push drugs on you, and see what you can do to help yourself. And I'll tell you, this SCENAR technology is literally the #1 way to go about doing that. So thank you again. Really appreciate you spending some time and stopping by to watch this video, and I really appreciate your kind comments. If you want to learn more about what I do and the series, I have a blog called the Tinkers Academy. I have a whole section on there about bioelectrical healing, and then of course I've got a bioelectro healing group on Telegram where we chat about all this kind of stuff all the time. And so there's going to be links below if you want to check out the blog or join the chat group and learn more, ask questions. Again, if I'm always on it. I'm the moderator for the chat group, so if you got any questions, that's where you'll find me. Okay? Thanks again, guys. I really appreciate it. And just, you know what? Good health to you and your loved ones, and take care of yourselves. All right? Aloha.